that the hill's surface was far from smooth and even, full of cracks and treacherous fissures, would demonstrate the tumultuous journey of navigating through all the ideas that make up the convoluted creational simulator, picking our way through the snares and pitfalls. Seems then we were adamant in our decision and real intent to get through these creational ideas that litter our path, to get through the personal self. I have experienced the removing of old taplines, demonstrated by the slaying of monsters on previous real-side experiences, almost as though they represented monstrous aspects of the created consciousness that were being put to rest. This may be the case here, as initially we would bash and smash our way through the spiders. Perhaps the spiders at the bottom of the hill, the ideas they represented, were the easier ones to dispel and retract agreement from, for surely the easiest taplining shackles would fall first, and as the process continues, we would encounter far more programmed and subconsciously ingrained agreements that may have been present for millions of lifetimes, of the emotional and mental taplines that are the hardest to release, would be those we would eventually be faced with and must decide to let go of too, as we must completely sever ties to our personal created self if we wish to be completely free of it and assume our universal positions as the free beings of light that we are. Here we can see that the guide led us up the hill, and we were readily able to dispatch the spider tapline agreement ideas, but perhaps the more deeply ingrained taplines required assistance. For the specifics of taplines forged lifetimes ago may be hard to identify, and even if we did, we might be looking at experiences from alien worlds, with alien cultures, and alien tap lines consequently, that would be difficult for the personal self to recognize and decide the release of. All tap lines are decisions and agreements, and so again, we always are the decider of the tap lines we keep, and the guides can assist us with our tap line clearing, but only if we agree, as it is always our free will to decide and maintain our agreements and attachments. And so my group and I must have agreed to perhaps having the more difficult tap line agreement spiders removed that featured further up the hill, and thus the guide obliged and removed them in rapid and immediate fashion, demonstrating how the process of awareness is vastly sped up with the assistance of the guides, how they will eradicate all the karma, taking the karma on themselves, working off the karma from the new friends who show the sincerity and real intent and the heart for this is recognitional undertaking, that the guide was in the form of Doctor Who would suggest a time theme, as the Doctor Who series is very much about time travelling and such, perhaps an indication of the limited time and small window of opportunity we have to position ourselves with the ease, perhaps a further indication of the spiders as representing tap line agreements which can only feature in time and space created simulations, or even that some of these spiders may well represent the dark force time makers, as they seek to trap and snare us in cause and effect time phases. But we made it to the top of the hill, and the guide had now departed, due to the size of the hill, it not being especially huge. I would be inclined to suggest this was one of many hills to the ease, as it is an endless journey, and often presents as one enormous mountain on the real side, but perhaps it can demonstrate just as readily as a succession of small hills. That we had assumed the summit suggested we had been victorious with this step, but there was more to go. Maybe we were even having one of those respites in creation, where the individual will take a moment of pause to regather their resolve and determination to continue on with the process of is recognition. As we sat there, there were a few among us that I didn't recognize at all, who began to instigate tensions between the new friends, almost like agitators. The dark forces will see what we're doing and will use all means necessary to cause dissension and disruption. Very likely they will have and be constantly planting spies and agitators amongst the new friends. Everybody demonstrates themselves, and any ill intent will eventually show up, and deception is always verifiable on the real side, where the real awareness can oversee all of creation and the intent of everyone within it. Often such individuals will be programmed by the dark forces, for if they have no connection to their real awareness, they are completely controlled and manipulated through their Kalom God-owned, created consciousness, personal selves. Consequently, they can be motivated to act as spies, infiltrators, and troublemakers through the influence and subconscious puppet string pulling, like little Manchurian candidates. Like in the Matrix movie, where if you're completely locked in the Matrix, at any time an agent can assume control of your body. Also, such dubious, ill-intended individuals can tapline new friends through association and agreement. Joni and the reptilians can tapline people through others, and if people present as friends, the personal self may allow them to feature in our experience, as it won't have the ability to discern intent if we don't listen to the impressions, insights, and warning nudges of the real self on the physical level and the revelations on the real side. In this case, the agitators did a fair job at causing a degree of disruption. At one point, I had two simultaneous views, one of my personal self and one of my real self, as both are always present on the real side. The personal self had bought into the ploy of the agitators to an extent, and was assuming a few funny little attitudes. The personal self was stationed now at the bottom of the hill at this moment, whereas my real awareness was still sat at the top of the hill and objectively indifferent to these attempts of troublemaking by these agitators.